we have, of all people, Sean Banks, the director of the Carteret Cooperative Extension Agency. And just to remind everyone, there's a cooperative extension agent in every county of North Carolina. 100 counties, 100 agents, actually, and more in some instances.
This is true.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of variety of activities and professions. Well, I say professions, but professional knowledge. So good afternoon to you. And yes, we are in the Christmas season.
Yes, we are.
And Merry Christmas to you, by the way.
Merry Christmas.
And, well, I guess Thanksgiving is officially past. All right.
Yeah, it's December now, so we're into Christmas.
Okay. All right. So what happens in December when it comes to gardening and management of your plants and yards?
Well, I wanted to talk today about the two most popular Christmas plants. Can you guess what they are?
One of them's got to be Christmas tree. The other one is got to be the poinsettia.
Very good. Both of them correct, right on the nose on both.
And I didn't even look. I didn't even cheat.
Well, you couldn't have cheated on one. It's on the other side of the paper.
Well, of course, the situation related to Christmas trees is the variety of Christmas trees. You have firs, you have pines, you have spruces. Is a spruce a pine?
No, a spruce is a spruce.
This is spruce. Okay.
And you can't forget firs. We got firs.
Firs, lots of firs, but that's predominantly what we grow in North Carolina, isn't it?
We grow a lot of Fraser firs. We're probably the number one state growing Fraser firs for Christmas trees.
Okay. And so I guess if a question I have for you, this is probably not the intention, but what are the benefits or, if you will, the challenges associated with these different, let's talk with I'll call them the cut trees, not versus the planted tree with a plant ball. But what is some of are there any preferences as far as bringing a tree into a house?
There are some things that you might want to look for when bringing a tree into a house. One thing that could happen is there may be some aphids or some spider mites on the tree. Right. They usually try to spray them and get rid of those before they cut them and package them. However, sometimes they don't always get all of them.
Well, the other aspect of it is so the tree arrives at its retail outlet. Do those aphids possibly, are they reattracted to that tree? Will they be?
In our area, because we don't actually grow most of the Christmas tree varieties that we sell here in this area, those particular types of aphids aren't going to be here in the area.
Okay.
Because they're a different aphid from the aphids that grow on those plants in the mountains.
Okay. What about the difference in the tree itself? And I mentioned, as I mentioned it to you, I think one year we actually used a pine tree. I don't. Was it Scotch pine? It was a long time ago, and we did it only one time.
People have used Scotch pines. People have also used the eastern white pine.
Okay,
they're both really good. They have a nice shape for Christmas trees.
They do.
The problem with those is they generally tend to lose their needles a lot quicker than a fir or a spruce.
And hanging your ornaments on a pine tree requires gloves
and a little bit of skill.
Yeah, because those needles can get sharp.
Yes, the needles are quite sharp, and they're a lot longer than the hooks are that you're hanging your ornaments with. So you're going to come in contact with them, whereas fir and spruce needles are usually an inch or less in length, and so you're not usually going to have problems with those needles.
All right, fir trees are predominantly grown in North Carolina. What about spruce?
Spruce, you can grow some spruces in North Carolina, but they tend to do a little bit better in cooler climates. And so for the spruces, you're gonna look for those coming out of New York and Vermont and those places that have a little bit cooler climate throughout the year. And
any difference in how you take care of those trees as far as the amount of water you put in the pot, and how do you? That's a really important question. What do we do to maintain the freshness of the tree that's already been cut?
Well, there's a couple of things that you need to do no matter what kind of tree it is that you get.
Okay.
The first one is when you get the Christmas tree, either at the outlet where you're getting it or when you get it home before you put it in the stand, you want to make a fresh cut on the base of the tree. Usually that base of that tree is going to be healed up, so it's not going to be able to take up any water.
Gotcha.
So cutting off about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch
Mm-hmm.
off of the base of the tree, that opens up a fresh wound and allows that tree to suck up the water that you're going to be applying to
Okay.
the base of the tree. So that's going to be the first step that you want to take. That's definitely a must. What I have done in the past with fresh cut Christmas trees is go ahead and make that cut, set it in the stand, fill it up with water, and leave it outside in a shady location.
Mm-hmm.
Just for a few hours, sometimes overnight, just to make sure that it starts taking up that water
Gotcha.
before I bring it in. And then because it's going to be saturated with water at the base, then I can dump out the container, bring it in, set it up, get it all situated, and then fill it back up with water without having to worry about it drying out before I can get it set up.
Okay.
And that works pretty well for most trees. The other thing that you want to do is, I've heard lots of myths about what to put in there.
That's what I was wondering.
The North Carolina Christmas Tree Association says just add water.
Okay.
No
No nutrients of some nature.
I've heard use the Christmas tree crystals that they give you at some places
Mm-hmm.
to keep the moisture there. That actually makes it a little bit more difficult as the moisture gets low for the tree to take up that extra moisture, because it's in a gel form and not in a liquid form.
Okay.
I've heard using soda, like a Sprite or a 7-Up or something like that, to add sugar. The tree needs the sugar. Well, actually, the tree's already dead, so it's not going to be doing any more new growth.
Gotcha.
So there's no point in adding any nutrients to the water. I've heard putting aspirin in there
Mm-hmm.
to kill any bacteria. I don't think the tree's worried about bacteria. It's going to take longer than the
Right.
30 days or whatever you have with the Christmas tree up for a bacteria to kill the tree. So what usually is going to kill the tree the fastest is if you allow the tree stand that's holding the water to drain down to the point where it doesn't have enough water in
Okay.
there for the tree to wick up the water.
All right. Does it matter? Warm water's cold water? Does that matter at all?
You know, they did a research study on that a few years
Really?
back.
I just threw that question out there.
They actually did a research study because somebody was saying you need to use warm water. Somebody else was saying you need to use cold water. They actually found out it didn't matter. Water is water. The tree is going to take it up no matter
Okay.
what temperature it is. All it needs is to have that liquid in there so that it can take it up.
Is there anything to spray on a tree, on the leaves, possibly to sort of hopes that they keep their fronds or their leaves?
There's nothing really to help keep it more moist.
Okay.
Adding the water and making sure that the water doesn't get too low in the tree stand is going to be the best thing for keeping
Right.
the tree moist. There are some fire retardant sprays that you can apply to those trees. Any tree that you see inside at like a festival of trees or some kind of display that has a lot of trees in it, generally the fire marshal is going to require that those trees be sprayed with a fire retardant spray.
Okay. All right.
And so you can't see the spray. It's just a liquid that's sprayed on there that's going to slow any fire down so that it doesn't, because we've all seen pine trees and fir trees. They catch on fire and they go whoosh.
They explode practically. Yeah.
They're just gone really fast. But all trees that are in a display like that inside of a shopping mall or a church or
Okay.
some kind of facility where they're doing a presentation with a lot of trees, they're going to usually be required by the fire marshal to be sprayed with some kind of fire retardant
Okay.
spray.
All right. Anything else? I jumped right into the Christmas trees.
No, that's quite all right. There's a couple other things with Christmas trees that I want people to know that I've heard. I used to work at a retail center, and I would have silly little requests, or people would ask me for specific things to be done with their tree.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've heard a lot of is cut a V in there that gives more surface
Right.
area for the water to be taken up. Actually, what you're doing when you cut that V is you're making it so that you have to keep that water level a little bit higher. It doesn't actually make it easier for the tree to take up the water.
Okay. What about the level of the water? Does it matter in light of the fact that you might have an inch or two above the cut or 3 inches above the cut? Does that matter?
That really doesn't matter. What really matters the most is that the tree is submerged, the
Right.
base of the tree is submerged in water, whether that's 1/4 of an inch or 3 inches,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's down in the water. You don't want that water to get below the level of the tree, because if it does get below the level of the tree, then you would have to put a fresh cut on there in order for it to come back
Okay.
up again.
All right. That's a good point. Okay.
A couple other things that I've heard when I was cutting trees and putting them in stands for people was shave off the outside edge. It allows more water to take up. Actually, that's not true either, because that outside part of the wood is actually the part that's easiest for the tree to suck water up with. So you don't want to remove that part of the tree. And if you're having to remove that in order to be able to fit it into the tree stand, you need a bigger tree stand.
Okay. I'll remember that.
Most tree stands, one of the things that I found on the Christmas Tree Association's website is that you need about enough area inside or enough volume inside the tree stand to have 1 quart of water per 1 inch of diameter of the trunk of the tree.
Okay.
So if you got a 4-inch trunk, you need to have at least enough space in there to put 4 gallons or 4 quarts of water, 4 gallons.
Yeah.
That'd be a really big stand.
That would
But you want to make sure that you have enough space in there to put enough water in, especially for the first few days, because it's really going to take up a lot of water those first couple of days.
Okay. Oh, what about the temperature in the room? Will that in any way enhance the drying out, or does it matter?
Yes, it does. Couple of things that were on some of the safety websites were don't put it near a fire source, like don't put it near a fireplace. That seems like it would be common sense to me.
Well,
but
it looks pretty. You have this image of the tree, and behind it the fireplace, the Yule log burning, etc.
I've seen a lot of Christmas movies in the last couple of years where I just took notice and the tree is right next to a fireplace,
and you go,
and I'm like,
They had a fire department nearby.
Either that or it was an artificial fire, one of the two.
Right.
Anyway, but don't put it near a fireplace. You also don't want to put it near a heat vent, because that's going to dry out. The wind blowing over the needles is going to dry that out a little bit quicker, so you don't want to put it near a heat vent. The other thing is, the cooler the temperature in the house, the less likely it is to dry out really quick.
Okay.
Most of us don't like temperatures down in the 60s, but that would be better for the tree. But you definitely don't want to go above 72, 73 degrees, because that's going to dry it out a lot quicker than it would below 70.
We're talking with Sean Banks, again, Carteret Cooperative Extension Agency. We're talking about maintenance of our Christmas decorations, particularly trees and plants. We'll be back with more here on Coastal Gardener here on the Talk Station, FM 107.1. It's Coastal Gardener on the Talk Station, FM 107.1. And joining us this afternoon, we have Sean Banks of Carteret Cooperative Extension Agency. And we've been talking about the issue of Christmas trees, but we've got also other Christmas plants that we need to maintain and also enjoy. So any other things on the Christmas tree that I failed to bring up other than water, heat, and the different types?
Well, 2 more things about Christmas trees that I really want to point out. And these are both safety issues. One is, I remember when I was young, we would put like C9 or C7 lights on the Christmas tree. Those put off a whole lot of heat.
Right, they do.
Nowadays, they're recommending using the LED lights because they don't put off any heat. And you always want to inspect those cords for any frays, or if the cords are wore out, go ahead and just replace the lights. If you're missing a light, or if there's a broken light, you can just replace that light bulb. But if there's something wrong with the cord, go ahead and replace that whole cord. The other thing is, I know it doesn't sound like it's such a big deal, but they do recommend that if you're leaving the house, just turn off the lights. Yeah. You don't want to leave the lights on if you're going to be leaving the house.
That is a very flammable product. That is a tree. And given the right opportunity, it will catch fire.
And they burn really fast.
They burn fast. They burn hot, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so that was the last thing about the Christmas trees that I wanted to point out, was a couple of safety issues just to make sure. After New Year's, we'll mention where you can take the trees to get rid of them if you want to recycle those trees.
Now, poinsettias.
Yes.
And I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That's how I pronounce it, poinsettias. One of the things that's really important is when you're selecting your poinsettias, even right there in the store, just take a really close look at it. And what you're looking for is you want to have good color in the bracts, so the red or the multicolored bracts on the top. A lot of the ones that have purples and blues, those are spray painted. They're probably white with spray paint on them. So you want to look for good color on the bracts. And then the most important thing when selecting a healthy poinsettia is look at the center of the stem, and there should be anywhere from 7 to probably 12 or 13 yellow flowers. They're really tight. So what you're looking for is several of those little tiny yellow flowers that are in there, and you want to see them closed up tight. You don't want to see them wide open.
Okay.
If they're wide open, it's an older plant. It's been flowering for a while, and it's not going to last very long.
Okay.
So the closer you get to Christmas, the less that's a big thing. But right now, you want to go ahead and make sure those are pretty tight.
Okay. I've got to put in another plant that we have fortunately acquired, and that is a Christmas cactus. And they gives a beautiful flower.
Right, they do. They flower really pretty. And the Christmas cactus, kind of like the poinsettias, they like to be moist but not really wet.
Okay.
Christmas cactus are a little bit more forgiving when it comes to letting them dry out than a poinsettia is. Christmas cactus, because it is a cactus, it has a lot more moisture in the stems and the leaves. Excuse me. So you go ahead and want to, you may even be okay with letting that dry out almost completely before you water it. I don't like to let mine dry out completely. I like to let it get light but still moist and then add some more water. And that's what you generally would like to do with a poinsettia.
Now, a poinsettia is grown in the dark. Am I correct on that?
Actually, a poinsettia is a tropical plant.
Okay.
And so it usually in its natural setting is going to be out in full sun or mostly sun with a little bit of shade. And that's where they normally grow. What causes them to color up and to flower is they need to have a minimum of 12 hours of complete darkness for at least 10 weeks before they'll completely flower up.
All right. Wait a second. This is a tropical plant. The tropics have lots of sunlight. How do you get that 12 hours of darkness for 10 weeks?
Well, even in the tropics, even if you're right there on the equator, it's going to fluctuate just a little bit, and you're going to get 12 hours of complete darkness for that 10 weeks, even on the equator, because it's going to get to that point at some point where it's 12.1 hours or a little bit longer.
Okay. Let's talk about, a few other items you've got on there, poinsettia. I'm going to talk to you about what to do with them after the Christmas season.
Okay. Well, to keep them fresh during the Christmas season, you don't need to fertilize them. You do need to keep the soil moist, but not wet. A couple of things that cause the poinsettias to drop their leaves. They usually start with the lower leaves first and then work their way up. One is you allow them to dry out completely to where the soil is really dry. Then they start dropping their leaves to conserve the leaves that they do have so they can continue to grow. So keep that soil moist. The other thing that causes them to drop leaves is if you water too frequently. So if you keep them wet, they're going to drop leaves because you're going to end up having a little bit of root rot in there.
Okay.
So you want it moist but not wet. So usually you want to check that every 2 to 3 days.
How do I determine it's moist?
If you can touch it and you still feel moist, but when you lift it up, the pot is really light, then it's moist but not wet.
Okay.
At that point, if the pot is really light, you probably want to go ahead and water it.
Okay.
And the best way to water it is go ahead and put a whole lot of water on there, let it drain through, give it a few minutes to soak up, about 30 minutes to soak up any leftover moisture to wet any dry spots that are in there, and then empty out the saucer that's underneath there or whatever is holding the water.
Okay, one more time. You put the water.
Pour the water in so that you have water coming through the bottom.
That's a lot of water.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But let it sit in that water for about 30 minutes and then empty that water off so it's no longer sitting in water.
Okay, and then leave it alone for...
And then let it be for 2 to 3 days. Usually the pot will be pretty heavy at that point because it'll be at saturation point.
Okay.
And you can feel how heavy it is. If you pick it up and it's still feeling light, then you may need to do that process one more time.
Any nutrients, any fertilizer, anything of that nature?
As long as it's flowering, it's not needing any nutrients to continue to grow, because all it's doing at that point is it's producing the flower, and then it should have enough moisture or enough nutrients still in the soil that it was being grown in to make it through Christmas time. After Christmas, you may want to fertilize it to get the growth going back again if you're wanting to keep it through Christmas or after Christmas.
Now, if you're keeping a poinsettia after Christmas, where full sunlight? What's the issue here?
It is a tropical plant, so full sunlight would be the best place to do it. You do want to grow these between 65 and 70 degrees is going to be the best growing during the wintertime or inside the house.
Okay.
So unless you're like me and like the temperature a little bit warmer inside the house, 65 to 70 degrees is the ideal temperature to grow these poinsettias, even during the Christmas season.
Okay. During the summer seasons, do you put them outside?
Yes, you can put them outside during the summer and grow them outside. Be very cautious not to let it dry out. That's usually the thing that does most people in is
Because it's a tropical plant, it's used to a lot of rain.
it's used to having rain every couple of days or every other day. So if you're going to try to grow it through the summertime, I would pot it up into a little bit bigger container. So add a little bit more soil, and then when you put it outside after any danger of frost, because these plants don't like to have temperatures below 40 degrees.
Okay.
At or below 40 degrees, they could suffer some cold injury. And so you don't want to, even when you're selecting them in the store, the last thing you purchase is going to be that poinsettia. You'll take it out to the car. I would suggest wrapping it up either in the plastic that it came in or in a plastic bag from the retail outlet that you purchased it from. Wrap it up so that it's not getting in contact with any of that cold air that we've had.
So we're talking, doesn't take long for that cold air to damage the plant.
It doesn't. It's only going to take 15 to 20 minutes. So
Wow.
you take it outside, you set it in the car, and then you want to take it right home
Okay.
and put it inside the house. You don't want it sitting in the car for an hour or 2 hours while you're finishing your shopping.
All right. What about the Christmas cactus?
Christmas cactus can tolerate the cold temperatures a little bit better, but again, it is a subtropical.
Right.
They're not going to do really well if they're left out in the cold. So again, I would purchase that on your way home, not purchase it and then go do some more shopping for a couple hours and then head home.
All right. What about keeping a Christmas cactus for past Christmas for the next year?
The best thing to do with that is put it in as much light as possible. It is a plant that grows in full sun.
Okay.
So it will do fine putting it in full sun. Again, you want to keep the soil moist. It doesn't matter so much with that one if it dries out a little bit more. Again, this is a day length thing that's going to trigger it to start to flower.
Okay.
So you want to go ahead and make sure that you're not keeping the light on it all night long, or it may not flower during the Christmas season.
That was my question. But they blossom at Christmas. That's fascinating.
Yes, if you give them that dark treatment and give them that 12 hours or 12 plus hours of darkness, I read a couple of websites that said when you get home from work, put it in the closet and then don't bring it out of the closet until just before you leave for work the next day. And I've heard that with poinsettias and with the Christmas cactus. And that will encourage them to bloom, but you want to make sure that during that time when they're out in full sun.
Okay, full sun's important.
Yes.
All right. Anything else as we wrap it up?
Those are the things that are really important for your poinsettias. Make sure that they stay moist. Don't let them dry out, and don't give them too much water because either one of those two will cause the poinsettias to drop leaves.
All right. I'm looking forward. We'll talk later about how to maintain them during the winter months so that we can enjoy them again.
Okay.
Okay. And I do want to wish you, we still have more weeks ahead, but Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for joining us. And let me just remind the audience one more time. Of course, we're talking with Sean Banks, Carter Cooperative Extension Agency. But remember, in every county, you have an extension agent. Don't pass up the opportunity. They love having you call them, right?
We love to have questions.
Okay. More to come here on the Talk Station.